All right, our next reader is Molly Lazer. There's Molly. Here. Oh, there she is. Some facts about Molly. She owns almost every issue of Fantastic Four ever published and almost every book Stephen King has ever written. That's a lot of books. Between 2000 and 2004, she saw a cappella supergroup Rockapella Live 9 times. She has performed in 7 Shakespearean plays and 9 Gilbert and Sullivan operas. If you name a star from the late 70s, there's a halfway decent chance she can tell you if they were on The Muppet Show and what song they sang. Despite not being vegan herself, she has become fairly adept at vegan baking in recent years. She is slowly inching her way towards completing her MFA at Rosemont and is very happy to read for you tonight. Welcome, Molly Lazer.
I'm going to read 2 flash pieces tonight. The first one is officially the weirdest thing I've ever written. It was inspired by a piece of artwork, the painting Saturn by Goya, which looks like this. I brought a visual aid. So this story is called Bob, the second youngest child of Kronos and Rhea, is eaten by his father. He arrives in Kronos' stomach, holding his head under his arm, trying not to let the blood that gushes from his neck splash on the carpet. Poseidon stands a short distance away, waving at him, 3-pronged trident topped by electrical bulbs. "We just got power down here," Poseidon says. "We're hoping to have the DVR up and running by next week." Poseidon takes him by the arm, the one not holding his head, and leads him around the stomach, pointing out the scaffolding he's built along the stomach walls, where Christmas lights weave around the beams, giving the peristalsis a festive appearance. "The only problem is that the wiring goes on the fritz when the gastric acid splashes," Poseidon explains, as something the size of a skull falls from the ceiling and pepsin splatters upwards. Bob makes sure his head is still dry. Poseidon apologizes and points up toward the lower esophageal sphincter where Hades practices his magic act. Hades waves, dropping another one of the bowling pins he is attempting to juggle. Poseidon sighs. Hades holds up his hand. Wait for it. The tiger that has been sitting by his side changes into a voluptuous maiden who jiggles in Bob's direction until she sees Bob's head under his arm. She whispers something to Hades and transfigures back into a tiger. "She says you smell like armpit," Hades calls down with a smirk. The tiger curls up in a ball in Kronos' submucosal layer and begins to lick itself. Poseidon tells Bob to pay Hades no mind. He's been disgruntled since Aphrodite said he couldn't come back to the red light district she'd set up in the duodenum. "Aphrodite? She's down here?" Bob says. "Why would Kronos eat her? She's Uranus's kid." Poseidon shrugs. "She saw a business opportunity and jumped in behind Demeter. Go where the customers are, I guess." Hestia and Demeter run a bed and breakfast in the liver. Bob set his head down on the counter to pay for a room. When given a choice, he picks the Dionysian suite. It has a hot tub and HBO. Poseidon warns him against actually eating the breakfast at the B&B, since all Demeter ever serves is cereal. Bob drops his head off in his room, relieved not to have to carry it around anymore. "Stay away from the pancreas," Poseidon says. "We locked Hera in there when she wouldn't stop yelling at some rock that Kronos ate for cheating on her." Bob agrees to meet Poseidon for dinner at one of Aphrodite's cat houses that actually serves food. He kicks off his shoes, lies down in the bed, and turns on the TV. His chin itches, but on the night table, his head is too far away to reach. The walls begin to shake. For a moment, Bob wonders if his room is equipped with one of those magic fingers beds. Then he hears the grumbling, and he realizes Kronos is still hungry. Now for something completely different. The second piece I'm going to read is a piece of flash that I wrote in Randall's class last semester. It's called Lentils in Black Rice, and it opens with a quote from the Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella, which reads, "The king appointed a festival which was to last 3 days, and to which all of the beautiful young girls in the country were invited in order that his son might choose himself a bride. As Cinderella went on asking, the stepmother at last said, 'I have emptied a dish of lentils into the ashes for thee. If thou hast picked them out again in 2 hours, thou shalt go with us.'" After they married, the prince had to tell her to stop cleaning. He found her punishing the bedroom rug with the racket they were to use for a game of battledore against his parents that afternoon. "It was dirty," she explained, looking at him as though he were the one with the dust sallow skin. "We have people for that." He took the racket away from her as he might take a toy from a naughty child and guided her away with a gentle hand on her shoulder. Ella had a strange habit of picking the lentils out of the black rice dish that was the prince's favorite dinner. She hoarded them, he was sure, but he never knew where they went after she swept them into her lap. Over supper, she asked about keeping pigeons. "They are such pleasant company," she said, dabbing her lips with her napkin, "and they would help me occupy myself while you tend to matters of state." She chose her words carefully, the prince could tell. This pleased him. The pigeon house was built behind the stables. Ella missed the next few battledore matches, 3 meetings of state, and a formal banquet held to honor the vice-chamberlain of the bordering nation. The prince found her in the pigeon house. He peered through the clouded window, holding his nose against the stench that snuck out from below the glass. He could see her gray gown and the birds perched on her long, thin fingers. She cooed at them, nuzzling her cheek against the purple-green feathers of the pigeon on her shoulder. "This is not my partner, the girl in the golden dress who I danced with on the first night of the festival," he thought. And when he returned after midnight, it was with an axe. The pigeons made their escape when they heard the wood splintering. When he returned to his chamber, the prince found Ella asleep in bed with an oil lamp burning on the mantelpiece. She wore the pearl nightgown that he had given her as a wedding present, and her face was scrubbed clean. He nuzzled her cheek with his and slipped in bed next to her. At the next dinner, Ella left the lentils in the bowl, much to the prince's relief. "I would like a grove of pear trees," she said, stirring the rice around with her spoon. "It would be a splendid place to pass an afternoon with my ladies-in-waiting." The prince imagined Ella surrounded by white blossoms and ladies in white dresses, sedentary, fanning themselves as they gossiped about members of the court. A deal was struck with the neighboring vice-chamberlain to import 50 mature pear trees into the country. Ella only missed 2 gavotte lessons before the prince went to look for her this time. He found her, as he expected, in the pear grove, but unexpectedly alone. She spun nimbly on her toes, grass staining the knees of her gray gown, hair whirling around her face. She sang to the pigeon house refugees that perched in the trees. Pear juice dripped from her chin. Out of sight behind a tree, the prince thought of her on the second night of the festival, in a shining silver dress, her hair caged in ribbons and braids. After midnight, he returned with his axe. Ella sent back her dinner the next night, asking that the lentils be taken out. When the bowl came back from the kitchen, she attacked it hungrily, one eye on the prince. She knew somehow, he thought, that he had been in her wardrobe, had taken out the gray dress that smelled of the hearth and fed it to the kitchen fire. "I got you a gift," he said, beckoning for one of the servants to bring the pillow with the golden slippers on it. Ella glanced at the shoes and offered a small smile. "They're lovely," she said as she put them on. There she was, the prince thought, his partner from the 3rd night of the festival when her dress had reflected the stars, the only girl he wanted to dance with. He got up from the table, watching Ella, who stayed as though her shoes were coated with pitch. Months later, the king fell ill and died. Dignitaries from 20 countries attended the prince's coronation. Ella walked behind him, wearing the golden slippers that made her toes and heels bleed, but that the prince insisted she wear. She followed him, pieces of black rice under her fingernails like the last pieces of ash. Thank you.